I'm Michael Bain, and welcome to Triggered, coming to you from the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains, Dragon House Studios here in Colorado, and brought to you by Midway USA, just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Now, if you remember last week, I told you we were going to see a great 1,000-yard rifle today. Well, we are. But first, here's a great 100-yard rifle. Isn't this the cutest rifle you've ever seen? It's a BSA Martini Cadet, and it has been converted to 38-357. We're going to talk about that today because last week I got a call from my friend Andy Larson. And Andy Larson, of course, is the owner and founder of Skinner Sights. He makes Skinner Sights for zillions of lever actions. He makes takedown lever action. Andy, in so many ways, is a jack of all trades. And one of the things he loves are really cool rifles that not everybody else has. And he had mentioned that he had or was obtaining a BSA Martini Cadet. And I said, oh yeah, you've probably seen mine. And he goes, you have a Martini Cadet? I said, yeah, sure. Full custom one. He goes, wow, I'd like to see that. So Andy, Sheila, this is for you. If you don't remember your history on this, basically the Martini Cadets were made in England and in Australia as training rifles for soldiers. Because basically in the Boer Wars, which is, I forget, like 1840s, 60s, and somewhere in there, I think maybe into the 1890s at various times, the English got their butts handed to them by the Boers, the Dutch settlers in South Africa, who were born with their Mauser rifles. So I think it would be late 18th or late 19th century. They were born with Mauser rifles. They were the great masters of shooting. The English showed up to fight the Boer War and discovered, in fact, they weren't. So eventually they won because of overwhelming numbers. But the British government decided it might be a good idea to teach their soldiers to shoot. And so, being with the Martini Henrys, the great big Martini Henrys, you've seen them in their great big huge clunky cartridge, it made sense to create a smaller copy. Of course, the joke is, by the late 1800s when these guns were available, the Brits had already gone a long way away from the single-shot Martinis. But these remained great little target guns. The Australian government ordered a bazillion of them, 80,000, something like that. Maybe it's even 800,000. Most of them were in .22. And they had target sights. They remain actually excellent, world-class little target rifles. But in the 1950s, a flood of these surplus guns came into the United States. Starting in 1955, you could get BSA Martinis all over the place. And remember, this period of time in America, this post-World War II period of time, was the first huge flood of home gunsmithing. You may recall the Frank DeHaas book with the red cover, Converting Surplus Military Rifles into Sporters. Frank DeHaas also wrote about converting Martini Henrys into modern guns. And one of the type guns that was really popular, if you go to late 50s, early 60s, was something like this. This is what I see as a classic recreation of those early 1960s BSA Martini conversions. They were typically converted from the existing cartridge, which was .310 Rook. It was a cartridge made for shooting rooks, crows, ravens, and very close to a 38-357, mostly to a 38 Special. It used a special bullet, which is why it was never particularly popular to keep doing that. So you saw a lot of either 32-20 or 38 Special conversions on these guns. So they're essentially, were also a great rook gun, if you will. So I happened to be talking about this to my good friend Alan Samuel, machine gun dealer. Alan was on the very first shooting gallery, season 1, episode 1. He almost got me killed by a crazy Russian woman with an AK-47. Another story. But I was talking a little bit about custom rook rifles. And Alan said, well, you know my father, Vic, you worked with him on shows. I said, yeah, sure. He is the great living master of turning BSA Martinis into amazing looking custom guns. I said, who knew? I thought I knew about who was building specifically BSA Martinis. He goes, no, meet my dad. So I spent some time with Vic Samuels. And I said to him, I want to build an homage gun. And he goes, boy, in my head, I know exactly what you're talking about. And we're going to continue on this line when Triggered returns. Welcome back to Triggered, where we're talking about this incredible custom BSA Martini Cadet. When I talked to Vic Samuels, I said I would like it in the style of those early 60s Cadet conversions. He goes, you know, I think I know exactly what you mean. So he said, draw me the stock. So I said, I want a really wide, flat fore-end, because that was kind of a bench rest fore-end, what we might call. And that was very popular. I said, I'd like a high comb in the back. Pistol grip stock, high comb, because once again, this is what you might see in 1962, 1963. Recoil pad, high with 38 special, wow, okay. But Vic made a lot of custom parts for these guns. This particular barrel, it's a half octagonal barrel, it's absolutely amazing. He made that. This lever for the full pistol grip gun, it's a little bit wider at the bottom, it's easy to pop open. He made that. A lot of the internal parts in here, including trigger mechanism, including addressing some issues with the firing pin, which were a drawback with those BSA Martinis, not to get into them here, his custom parts. This thing has a flawless light trigger pull, and I'm utterly amazed and have always been amazed at that. I got this gun in 2006, I think. That's when Vic built it. Because BSA Martinis have wretched triggers. Wretched, you wouldn't think that from a Target gun. But they really didn't have a great trigger, and they didn't have a mechanism that lent itself to being easily made a great trigger. However, Vic Samuels did that. And when we talked about the sight, he goes, do you want Target sights? And I'm like, no, I'm getting old. And it turned out that actually happened. But I said, let's go with a traditional loophole mount. You don't see those all that much anymore. This is a very traditional early loophole mount. You can buy them. And the reason you don't see a lot of them anymore is the front ring set ratchets in. It's set, you turn it, you ratchet it in, and then the rear ring set has these screws that lock down the rear ring. The loophole makes a special tool for you to ratchet that in. I have one. It's probably been lost since 2007, so I used a screwdriver wrapped in paper towels to ratchet that ring system in. Now, I agonized over what scope looks good on this gun, and the answer is none of them. But while I was fiddling around, I came across this old Ultra Dot. This is a 30mm Ultra Dot red dot sight. It's a match version. It has multiple reticles in different size, different MOA size dots, and has a circle, a dot and a donut, and it also has a circle with crosshairs, a dot and a donut. And I was holding it up and I thought, this may be, in terms of aesthetics, the most perfect sight to put on this gun. It looks like it belongs there, and believe me, no other. I tried a whole bunch of different scopes, you know, Weaver 4 power and some small variables. But the reason I wanted the loophole scope mount is because it was down low and unobtrusive. And with the lowest rings I could get, this Ultra Dot sight, the match dot, actually mounts very low. It's perfectly in line for this raised comb on the rifle. So with the 38 and a 357, really, let's be honest, you don't need a 6X. But the gun is amazingly fun to shoot, especially with 38 specials. It's like a pop gun. And, of course, easy to shoot. Without a scope back here, you don't have an issue with getting the round out. When you shoot it, the round pops out. It doesn't like flip way back into Pittsburgh. You have to sort of fingernail it out. But since you no longer have a scope that's going back over where you're loading the rounds, it's not a big issue with the falling block. I like it just because it's fun to shoot. But one thing you might actually think about with it is, let's say you're a deer hunter. This is a minimalist deer hunting gun. 357 mag round. The gun weighs in at exactly 7 pounds with the sight. It's going to be easy to carry. You need to put a sling on it, easy enough down here in the bottom. I would personally like to see a safari sling on it, a sweated on sling mount right here, because I think it would look perfect with the gun. You could imagine that you were on safari for very, very small animals. Okay, when Triggered comes back, I'll show you that 1,000-yard rifle. Haven't had a chance to shoot it yet, but you're going to be impressed. This week's Triggered is brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Volquartsen Firearms. Excellence is essential. Taurus USA. Prepare and protect. Rock Island Armory Arms Corps, home of the STK 100. Welcome back to Triggered. And there's no way that you could describe the Ruger Hawkeye Long-Range Target rifle as cute. Lots of other descriptions apply, but cute. This is my precious. Essentially, Ruger has really stepped into long-range target shooting, really whole hog. They've been working, this gun has been around a little bit. It's available in multiple calibers. This particular gun, and the reason it's my precious, is it's in 300 Win Mag. Now, obviously what you see here is this is 11 pounds of gun designed to shoot a long way. And by a long way, I mean 1,000 yards and beyond. 26-inch barrel, muzzle brake on it to keep it throttled down, because it is, after all, 300 Win Mag. Magazine fed. These are pretty much sort of AI standards, Accuracy International standard magazines, but Ruger makes plenty of them and they're very inexpensive. The adjustable trigger is just about flawless. It is a great trigger on this rifle as it comes out of the box. 20 MOA Picatinny rail on it. Ruger's classic push feed for the Hawkeyes. Adjustable stock. This is a composite stock that Ruger makes, and it works for me. It's heavy, but as my good friend Corey Trapp out at Gunsight, he's the ultra long range instructor at Gunsight. He has a class that starts at 1,000 yards and goes out to, I don't know, infinity, if you can go that far. But I was complaining about the weight of my 22 NRL rifle, and it was like 12 pounds. And if I can quote Corey Trapp, let me see if I can remember exactly what he said. Man up. He goes, what do you expect a rifle to weigh that if you're going to shoot to another county, right? At 11 pounds, you're going to add 2.5 pounds of scope to it. You're going to be like 13.5 pounds. That's kind of par for a heavy weight like this. You can get them lighter. But I wanted this one just to do some long-range shooting with Win Mag. And you might think, well, didn't you have a similar gun like this in one of those trendy new calibers? I don't know, a year ago, something like that? Yes. I had one of the Hawkeye targets in, I think, 30 PRC, 30 precision rifle cartridge, 30 caliber precision rifle cartridge. And like, well, why would you send that one back and then choose to buy one in 300 Win Mag? Well, let me show you why. If you step into my gun room, you see what? Well, you see a case of 300 Win Mag, and then you see a second case of 300 Win Mag. So what I have is enough Win Mag, 300 Win Mag, to last me probably the rest of my life. I have dies for it. I know how to reload it. It's a caliber I'm familiar with. I've used it in hunting guns. I think it's a super caliber. You know, of course, based on kind of a neck down, scale down, 375 H&H belted Magnum. It's been around a long time. It doesn't have secrets. It's been in use as one of the great hunting cartridges in the world. It's also been in use by the military for long-range sniping because it works at that. It is a good long-range cartridge at 1,000 yards and beyond. So if you look at the 30 PRC, it's close. In fact, you could look at the 30 PRC ballistically and go like, well, you know, the PRC, it's able to push a little bit heavier bullet with a little bit better BC, ballistic coefficient. So it's a little bit flatter and carries a little bit more energy at distance, right? Well, the question is is that little bit, all those little bits that I talked about, override the fact that the ammunition is in limited availability and you have to tool up to do another caliber? I say that it doesn't. I say the Win Mag is a great, great caliber. Now, if I was shooting the precision rifle series and I was, say, let's call it 20 years younger, I might be hungry for those little bitty improvements that you can pull off the PRC cartridges, the 6.5 and the 30 caliber. But I'm probably not. So from the things I want to do with it, this gun really rings the bells. I'm going to be taking it out to great guns farther away from here because they have a longer range and I can really settle into like sighting it in and shooting it than I can here on my home ranges. So I'm Michael Bain. This is Triggered. You can find us on michaelbain.tv. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Rumble. And on Rumble and YouTube, subscribe. Subscribe by all means. And also this week, I want a special thanks to my friend Buddy Myers at Tall Guns. Over this week, I have completed and actually passed all of the qualifications for the NRA Basic Instructor Pistol class. So it was a great class. People in the class were just super. I had a wonderful time shooting, wonderful time hanging out with those people and learned a lot. So, Buddy, Tall Guns, thank you very, very much. Also, thank you to Midway USA, who has just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors, and actually has Win Mag, 300 Win Mag ammunition in stock. Thank you, Larry. We'll see you next week, and hey, next week, one of Michael's idiotic projects.